Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast. I'm Charles Patti, the voice of Myself Wellness, along with my co-hosts Christina Thomas and Jamie Veneziale. 9 years ago, I began my journey to self-awareness and healing. Like many who have faced personal struggles, I felt lost and struggled to find lasting healing. It wasn't until I discovered alternative healing methods that I began to see a real change in my life. This show will help you unlock your true potential through healthy lifestyle practices and transformations. Join us as we explore personal stories, expert advice, and practical tips to help you step into your true potential and level up. Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Myself Wellness Podcast. Today, we are interviewing Mike McGovern. He is the owner and founder of Columbus Roofing. And the way Charles met him is absolutely insane, super synchronistic. And I will let him tell you all about another crazy story of how we met somebody else.
Well, first, man, hey, thanks for being on the show today, brother.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
The story of how I met Mike is very awesome. Like, it's a testimony to manifestation and the powers of the laws of attraction. But I was actually in a meeting with a couple of the guys that I was working with at this time, and they were basically like trying to ground my vision. They were like saying, listen, because like I was, talking about world healing and having, hundreds, if not thousands of clinics all over the world. And they were just like, listen, Charles, you really need to be a realist. And that is something that I am completely against because that is not, it's because that's not how you manifest your dreams. I mean, if you're trying to manifest those kind of dreams, then I guess it would be. But what happened is I got so annoyed during this meeting. I went out to my car and I was fuming just because like they had been doing it to me over and over and over again. And so I look up in the car and I'm like, God, will you please just put me in a room with a bunch of people that believe in manifestation and that are really doing big things with their lives and like, that aren't going to think this is all crazy talk. And the crazy thing is that there was a roofing conference going on at that time. And I wanted to go to this conference because I saw a bunch of amazing speakers. You were one of them. And I just I wanted to get there and attend this thing, but it was like $2,000. And I'm like, well, listen, man, $2,000 and I'm not a roofer. It's probably, if I'm meant to be there, I guess I'll end up being there. And what ended up happening is my other buddy, John Huffman, was doing.
Yeah, he was there announcing and stuff.
Yeah. He was emceeing the event. And so all of a sudden on my Instagram feed, I'm going through it and John says, hey, listen, if anybody's around and in town and they want to attend this conference, if you name drop me at the front, I'll get you in for $50. And I'm just like, oh,
good
okay.
discount.
Yeah, right. I guess I'm supposed to go, right? So there was like another ticket or like a thing that you could buy, and it was like $10,000, and you got to eat lunch with all of the
VIPs and the speakers and all that. Yeah,
you got it, man. And so what ended up happening was, I go to this conference and I'm listening to some amazing speakers. Mike, Derek Fay was speaking at the conference. Big shout out to Derek. And a bunch of other amazing people. And Nick Stanstonato was there.
Amazing.
He's amazing.
Amazing.
But I go and talk to John, and then John's like, hey, listen, man, have you eaten lunch today? And I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, well, come with me. So he just brings me backstage and I sit down and I'm sitting at a table with Mike and Nick and a bunch of all of these other fantastic speakers at the event. And we literally sat there and we talked about manifesting our dreams and the laws of attraction. And like everybody was in alignment and we were all talking about these crazy things that people would say that wouldn't be possible because, you have to be a realist. And it was just so beautiful because I was sitting at this table and I'm sharing with my story about healing through psychedelic therapy and how I was in a car 2 days before this asking God to put me in a room with people that were visionaries like this.
Yeah, man.
That's how I met Mike.
Yeah, it was wild, man. It was like there was a room full of 60 people probably, and it's just like all of a sudden I'm just like at this table talking about all this crazy stuff, and never did I think I'd be at a roofing conference having that conversation. You know what I mean?
Roofing conference. Who knew roofers were so lit?
Yeah. They're not all as cool. They're not all that cool.
Well, listen, man, I love how the universe brought us together like on this same track. And then we stayed in touch, and Mike had been talking to me back and forth about possibly wanting to, experience the kind of therapies that we were doing down here. And so we've been gosh, I don't know. It was probably like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, almost a year exactly. Yeah. And then you ended up in Columbus.
Yeah.
Came on my podcast, met one of my friends at one of the shows that you were at, which was crazy.
Yeah, another synchronistic thing. So like I'm at the Olympia last year in Orlando, and I went to True Iron Religion Gym. I think that's what it's called. And I'm working out, and there's a guy who's obviously, you know, a pro athlete, and I'm working out next to him, and we start talking about psychedelics. And then he was like, yeah, man. He's like, you know, I'm from Ohio, and, you know, I'm into DMT, and I've had these really profound experiences on it. And then it was so funny because we like were talking at the gym, and then I saw him later at the show, and I was like texting him. I was texting Mike, and I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, my buddy that I met at this roofing conference is supposed to be coming down for this show or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I was like, it's my buddy Mike McGovern, and he's like, shut up. He's like, he's one of my best friends, man. He's like, do you remember when I told you about smoking DMT earlier? He's like, it was with him, man. I'm just like, no way.
It's crazy, man. Bray's a great guy, man. He's an amazing person.
Yeah.
Him and I've been friends for a long time. But yeah, man, it's been a lot of synchronicity. You know what I mean? That's all it is. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, man. So Mike took the leap of faith and booked an Airbnb down here.
Yeah.
And was like getting ready to get on the plane, and hits me up the other day. And like, for everybody that's watching that doesn't know, we just had a hurricane here.
Yep.
Hurricane Milton.
And he was just like, yeah, he's like, I'm getting on the plane right now, man. And basically like, he was just like, he made his mind up that he was going to come down here and do these treatments, and nothing was going to stop him.
Yeah. Well, and then that was a whole crazy experience too, right? Because I get a text from the Turo guy like in the morning. I was like, hey, man, did they cancel your flights? And I honestly don't pay attention to a lot of things. So I didn't even know that this hurricane was coming, right? And I text my assistant. I'm like, is there a hurricane? She's like, yeah, pretty much right in the area you're going. Like, do you want me to cancel? I'm like, no, like, I'm going to go. I've committed to it.
Yeah,
I know if I...
Super hurricane, too. There's
Right.
Category 5,
Yeah.
catastrophic. It's going to wipe Florida off the map.
Everyone's panicking. Everyone's reaching out to me, calling me like, are you alive? Is everything okay? I'm like, I'm good. I promise. Like, I'm a survivor. I'll figure it out, you know? But I come down and I get off the plane, and as I'm walking through the airport, I hear like someone yell Govsy. And no one would call me that unless they played hockey with me, right? So I got to turn around. There's this kid, Tim, that I played hockey with 15 years ago when I lived in Boston. And so him and I were roommates, great friend, like one of my best friends through playing. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm house sitting down here for the weekend or for a couple weeks. He's like, you know, if you got some time, bro, hit me up. We'll get together. So then I came in and, you know, did the treatment on Monday, did the treatment on Tuesday. And then Tuesday, while I was in the integration room, he texted me. He's like, hey, if you're not into anything tonight, come down and let's, you know, grab dinner or something. So I go down, you know, get dinner, and like, just from the experience with, you know, what I had here, and then going down there and with him, and just like being like just disconnected and being able to be detached from everything. It was like probably one of the greatest times I've had in a long time, like laughing and just remembering stuff that I forgot even happened. You know what I mean? Back in the day, just when we were kids, man. It was a great experience, right? And then obviously come in with you guys on, and then, you know, stay with you guys on Wednesday, right? Because they shut the power off the Airbnb that I was at and everything there. So stay with you guys Wednesday, and then end up going back down and staying with him for the rest of the weekend. You know, and it was just like, and it couldn't have been any better. They got a pool in the backyard. We went golfing today, and it's just like, man, it's crazy, man. It really is. It's a small world.
No, it's literally, it's just like what we were talking about, where it's just like everything is, in my personal opinion, like a divine orchestration.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't make this kind of stuff up, where it worked out so perfectly how your buddy was down here. You stayed with us on Wednesday. You got up that next day. You went and hung out and chilled at the pool with him.
Amazing.
Whatever. You know, it's like once you start seeing these coincidences happening in your life, maybe like, you know, people need to realize that this probably isn't a coincidence, that it's all been like, it's in divine order. Everything's unfolding that way.
Yeah, you met him at a roofing conference.
Yeah.
He's not very handy. You know, I build everything. So the irony of him being at a roofing conference is...
I've never claimed to be that guy. You know?
Hired out. I'm a hired out kind of guy.
Thought there was a leak on our ceiling. He's like, I don't know. Maybe it's a leak. Like, who can we get to look at? I'm like, I don't know. Ask the roofer sitting on our counter.
Well, so Mike came in Monday and Tuesday and did a couple treatments. How were those ones?
Yeah.
I know you had done ketamine previously at another facility. How were these ones?
I mean, you know, it was, I think there's so many pieces to it, right? It's like, I think just the initial of doing it, the dissociate that you have, and just the reset, like that alone was impactful. right? Because it really does just get you to kind of disconnect from everything that's going on. And then, with what you guys have here, just the experience that you have, right? You get a nice room, they get you all tucked in. I mean, all the nurses are incredible. And then you guys are just the support that you feel, right? When I had done it previously, it was like, walked into the place, they put you in a room, no headphones, nothing to cover your eyes up, hook you up to an IV and walk out. You know what I mean? And it was like, I had no clue what to really expect. So, that first time I did get a lot from it though, just because it was my first time ever experiencing it. But as far as like being able to come down and like, you feel much more a safe place. There's not the anxiety around trying something new for sure.
Yeah. I kind of asked you a question that I didn't mean to, but is there anything else you want to like add on to ask about it?
No, he hit all the things. I just wanted, my main question was like, just what was the main difference? But I feel like,
well, I would say the main difference, a lot of it's the professionalism, right? Like that's a big piece to it. I mean, as a business owner myself, it's like, I don't think the products, the point to most companies, right? Like I look at us, it's like, all right, we're a roofing company. Well, you should install good roofs no matter what, or you shouldn't be in the business. Right. And so what's the experience that you give the customer? And I think that was a difference with when I was there to with you guys. It was like the entire experience. Right. I mean, and then obviously on after yesterday's, right, I'm like, I wake up and you and I are like locked arms and I don't even know how it happened. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is crazy, man. You just felt it felt very professionalized towards you, individualized. Like the experience in general was just like it felt special.
Well, what Mike was talking about is like he had an incredibly profound experience yesterday, which I want to get into, but like I felt like I needed to be in there to kind of like help ground him and be there for him. So Mike's kind of like coming out of his session and he looks over and I'm sitting there and I'm locked up with him, like, holding his arm like this. And he's like, he looks at me and he goes, man, he goes, I can't believe it. He goes, we met at a roofing, we went at a roofing conference. And I go, and you know what? I go, I'm not even a roofer.
You're not even a roofer, man. No, it was crazy, man. It was awesome.
So like after the first two that you did, like you said that there was like, I mean, you felt like you were kind of in this, like you were on one of those diving boards where you cross your arms and you're going straight down and you're moving around and everything and stuff like that. But then when we were at the house on Wednesday, we're sitting on the couch and Mike looks at me and he's like, man, he's like, I've never had like one of these really like breakthrough psychedelic experiences. And like, that's really what I'm trying to accomplish. And so like, we gave Mike a treatment that, is definitely, it's a deep dive. And like, how did that unfold for you? What was it like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, one of my big takeaways from it was that like, this is a tough experience. Like it's not for the faint of heart. And I think sometimes people think they can just like go into this thing and, it's going to snap them into this, new perspective. But so much of it is like, you got to go through it, right? It's like you're worn out, you're exhausted, you're bouncing back, you're fighting through it. So it's like you put so much personal like intention into it that like that's exhausting in itself. Right. Which that was kind of like set the bar for me on Monday, Tuesday, and then being able to go down there on Thursday with my buddy. I sat by the pool for like 6 hours. And at one point I was like in tears, just like in gratitude, right? Of just like how grateful I was and how, just the time I got to spend with him and being able to come here and, the team is able to continue to move the needle and things are going. And it's like, never did I think that I would have been here when I moved to Columbus, 7 years ago in a truck. And, and then going into yesterday's like prepping for it, right? Like I knew it was like Thursday. I'm like, it's like, I almost felt like game day was the next day. I really did, right? I'm like telling my buddy and then, with him, he drove me up. So like, that was super nice, but I didn't have to go with an Uber or anything like that. You obviously picked me up one day too. I think the setting that you put yourself in, because it's not just like when you get here, it's the preparation for it. Like you got to come with intention. You got to know what you want to get out of it, right? Because I didn't come down to necessarily beat PTSD or an addiction or something like that. It was more or less like, I know that the next level for me is understanding myself more and overcoming these, fears of rejection or, the insecurities that you have. Right. And so I came into it with like a little bit of a different intention. And so going into Friday, I was just like prepping for, Thursday night, going to bed early, was hydrated, told you I might have me an IV after we're done, like really excited about it. And, going into Monday and Tuesday, it was very like, I said it was kind of like this rolling clouds or like waves that were like full of stars, almost like a lava kind of feeling, right? And it was like, I was laying and like going down the slide and it's just like, boom, boom, like So I definitely felt very disconnected those days from everything, right? And then yesterday, I wasn't much of like a Dragon Ball Z guy, but I literally felt like it was like that feeling where it was just like, "Wah," you know what I mean? Like, especially like it felt like that divine, white light that you hear of, right? Like I felt that I like experienced that, and even coming out of it, like I felt myself like half cry, half laugh, like every emotion just like came out of me, And so, I mean, dude, it was just an unbelievable experience, man. Unbelievable experience.
I love that.
Yeah, dude.
Love that. And like I can relate to what you're talking about. It's like you during these experiences, because I believe that ketamine's a very high vibrational medicine, and the fact is that when you take on the vibration of the medicine, it's like raising your vibration, and it's almost like tapping you into this divine frequency where you start to like channel source or God energy.
100%. Well, I mean, even me and the doctor had like a moment. Like he came in and was like locking arms with me, and I could just like feel the vibration from him to me to like, and even when I come in here and lay down, it's like I just continuously felt, so much just energy rolling off of me. And that's what I felt was like almost like God energy, right? Where it's, to me, it's this idea of like, we're all created in, God's image, right? And I think for me, at least, a lot of my life, like I grew up in the Catholic church, then my uncle passed away. So I kind of had some resentment towards kind of, God in a sense, or religion, maybe more than anything. And so I feel like that disconnected me for a while. I found a church up in Columbus. The pastor there's a great friend of mine. But even then, I feel like I've struggled the past year or so of just like putting, God or like Jesus in this box as this character that died on the cross. Like that's been a struggle for me. So I have kind of felt disconnected from my faith. Yeah. But like coming down here and experiencing this, it was like, nah, like the whole idea or concept of Jesus is that like that's the human version of God. Like that's what we have to see. That's what we have to relate to. It's like our power doesn't come from this being in the, that's not what it's all about. It's about this individual that, came to earth, true or not true, however it is, whatever you want to believe. But like, that's where the hope comes from, is that like there was a human-like individual that was able to accomplish great feats. And I think as like entrepreneurs, anyone, like we possess that same power because we are made in the same image.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that that's like my interpretation of what we're like here to do in a way is, my interpretation, and listen, I'm not trying to sell anybody on this idea. I'm just trying to like explain what I really believe in my heart of hearts, is that, a lot of people are like, well, listen, like, Jesus is going to save me. Okay. Like like Jesus is my savior. And like the only way to get to heaven is through Christ. Mm-hmm. All right. And I actually am more of a believer of like, we're all here to like save ourselves by embodying Christ consciousness or being like Christ. Yeah. And that the only way that we can get to heaven is by doing that.
Being Christ-like.
100%.
Well, and I think that, if you, study transcendence and, all of those things, right? Where it's like, I think for, really it's it's about, as an individual, it's like overcoming those karmic debts. Because no matter what, like you, like instinctually, it's just years and years of sin and all of this stuff, right? That's like compiled on us as individuals. And so, we're all kind of starting from behind. And I think that's what like the, I guess, meaning to life for me is that, it's about being able to, transcend through the karmic debts of your ancestors, but then, being able to, to become so in touch and like divine as an individual that like you transcendence, what you're possible of achieving. And it's like when you can start seeing it like that, like I came out of that feeling like, wow, this makes me want to like just see the good in every person, to be more intentional, right? Like you talk about the synchronicities. It's like, if I wouldn't have, thought to myself, man, that's crazy that I saw Tim, maybe I should lean into that more. Like how often does something like that happen in our lives? We just ignore it. Yeah. And I think with the ketamine, it really allowed me to slow down enough and disconnect. And it's like, nah, man, like be in the moment. Right? You don't have to be living for the revenue. Yeah, it's not always about it's the relationships. It's like those are the things that fulfill us more than anything, right? And crazy too. It's like when I talked to Doc the couple days before I came down, he was just like he had just said something about like love. He's like, it really helps you connect with love again. And then like the whole ride up here yesterday, there was like nothing but like songs talking about love. Right. And then I get out and like heard another song about it. And then it was just like really, last night when I was kind of like integrating, and I like text my mom, text my dad, text the guys on my team. And I'm like, I am like so grateful and just it just makes me love everybody so much more. It's crazy.
Heck.
I got like chills talking about it.
No, I love that, man. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, be here now too. Like
You have to.
Yeah,
good.
no, for sure, man.
I want to know, because you had this like super profound experience yesterday, sub podcast conversations with God. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I want to know, take me back to your first ketamine treatment that you ever had. Like, how was that feeling? How did you feel when you did that treatment versus the treatment that you got
Yeah.
here?
So
Because I think it's important for people to know. I had somebody tell me yesterday that he was like, well, it was between you and another clinic, but I felt it here. Like, it's further drive. But like, there was nothing on your website that really described the difference that you guys give versus somewhere else.
Yeah.
So coming from a non-biased Charles or I, like, tell us how that treatment.
And that's what the guy said. He was just like, I get it now.
Yeah.
He's like, but I didn't get it until I got here and actually did it.
Well, because I think so much, again, it's not necessarily the drug that's the thing, right? It's you guys that are the thing. Like, you guys bring the energy in here, the way that you connect with people. Like I said, you're on the ground holding on to me while I'm going, you know what I mean? Like, that's just a powerful connection. And I think that like, that's what you get, right? When I went there, I said it was, I didn't realize that I was probably depressed in some ways until I had done it for the first time. And I was like, it's kind of like that Simpsons where it's like, the clouds kind of move away. Like, that's how I felt. I felt very reinvigorated, but I wasn't able to, because it was just so, just transactional, right? Where it was like, I came in, I did it. And like I said, I drove my car out that day, right? And no one was like, hey, are you good? It was just like, all right, see ya. And I just left. And, and then here it's like, it's not, you don't have that transaction. It's the connection with you guys. And that's the biggest thing for me. And then on top of that, it was the work to actually integrate the medicine. Cause I think there's probably a lot of places out there that offer it, but it's just like, hey, come and do this. And it's very surface level and you don't get as much out of it. Where with you guys coming in here and, sitting and talking to the nurses afterwards, sitting and them like kind of prepping you for it, making sure that you're capable and ready to even experience it. Right. Because this isn't for somebody that's never, gone through an experience, right? You can't just jump into it. Well, and you can the way that you guys set it up, because it's like you do one, you do two, you feel it out to see where they're at, but you can't go from never expanding your mind into like another consciousness to jumping right into that. Cause it could literally backfire, you know what I mean? And so, in there, it wasn't like they gauged it. It was just like, all right, here's what we're going to give you. Here you go. See ya. Did
you have any type of experience there? How did you feel?
For me, it was like I would say like the K-hole description, where it was just like, I watched my arms and I disassociated, but I didn't go in depths of it. I didn't go to where everything was a different, it was just black, right? It was like, I could feel myself. I felt like I just this little, ball of energy just kind of moving around, but I didn't really have any of the visuals and things that I had when I came here with you guys.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Can't believe they let you drive after.
Yeah, right. No, well, I'm also like, I got it. I mean? one eye it on the way home a little bit. It's not my first time. Not happy about it. But
I know we talked about it. We don't drink anymore, but I told him, I don't know. Like recently we had this conversation. I don't know how many times how did I make it home so safe driving like this? Like,
right. With one eye open. Yeah.
And that's how you see more straight.
Right. And that's the mainstream. Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
The perspective that people have on the drug because of government, whatever it is, but then they, will jam alcohol in your face and make it okay. And, don't drink and drive. And it's just like all of that just becomes, there's so many things in our environment or world that have just become so mainstream and just like what we accept. And I think that that's one of the biggest things with stepping into an experience like this is like, you're kind of breaking the mold, right? You're trying something that isn't necessarily mainstream. People might think that, oh man, that's a drug, this and that. Like they're going to talk, they might say something, but it's not about what they think. It's about what you're looking to discover through it.
Yeah. The other night, one thing like I wanted to touch on, because I loved our conversation on it, but like, we were sitting on the couch the other night during the storm and you were showing me the video that you were making for your company. And it was basically like, you talking about how you're there to like, it's more than just about roofing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, like you come to me, you can trust me. We're going to take care of you. Like it's a different kind of experience. And it's because I believe that success with a company is a byproduct of doing the right thing by people.
100%.
And I think that that's like, I guess like that's what I really take pride in, or we take pride in with our company, is that, it's like, it's never been even about ketamine or psychedelic therapy, or as much as it's just like, we just want to help people.
That's it.
And I think that that's like good advice for anybody out there, especially like when you're, utilizing the laws of attraction and stuff like that. It's like, as long as you're a genuine person and you're doing things for the right reason, it seems that like the universe or God or whatever you want to call it is going to actually take care of those kind of people.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's faith, right? It's like, in order to achieve, greatness, it's like you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to have faith in a higher power. And, coming here and doing this, it's like you experience a higher power. Right. And I think that's that's one of the biggest takeaways for me. Again, it's just that, you really feel like it resets, reconnects. Man, it just is nuts, man. And to comment on the doing good by people, right? I think as entrepreneurs, a lot of us don't really have a roadmap, right? So we're kind of figuring out as we go. And I've always realized that the more I take care of people first, the more my business has always grown.
Yeah.
Right. Like there has been months when I first started the business and, we're over leveraged. I have no idea how to run a company. There's no money in the bank account. I got 50 grand coming out for payroll. And, you just have faith that you just keep doing the right thing. You keep doing the right thing and you keep putting people first and you take care of people. And it's always paid me. Right? Like you start to stress those things so much less because like, that it's just time. I know that's got to keep doing the right thing, being a better person. And that's why I come to these things are so important because like, as entrepreneurs, myself is I'm the ceiling in my business. So if I don't constantly seek to find the next thing, the people that are seeking that are either going to leave me, surpass me, right? So it's like I have to continue to expand. And I think as an entrepreneur, we don't really know what expanding looks like sometimes. And so coming and doing something that disassociates you, disconnects you, it's like you find that purpose a little more. You slow down and think about like, what do I really want? Why do I really do this thing, right? Because a lot of times, when we're in the grind of it, you can get caught up in just survival.
Yeah, I know. It's so hard to see what you've done.
Yeah.
And where you came from because you're just stuck in the day-to-day of it.
Yeah. Well, you live in they call it the gap and the gain, right? The gap is where you're not, right? So most people are constantly looking back at the gap and be like, man, I got to go. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Versus the gain to say like, look how far you've come.
Yeah.
And coming here, again, doing this really, allowed me to pull back for a second and be like, I was sleeping in my truck at one point. No one believed in me. No money in my pocket. Everyone telling me I was making the wrong move. And now I look to where my life is and it's like, I honestly feel like I'm around and connected to the people that could change the world. And I could be one of the people to do it too.
100%. I know you can. I know that we're going to actually do some amazing things.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, no. Like when we were talking the other night on the couch, it was like, and I told Christina this today too. I was like, because you said it to me and I feel the same way about you. It's like, every once in a while, like you like we realize the box doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's like, you're talking about the people that were close to you that didn't believe in you and you were living in your truck. And like, it's like, but you had this vision and you knew you were going to accomplish it. And it's like, we were sitting on the couch the other night talking about some like outlandish manifestations that people would think are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, like, oh man, you can't do stuff like that. And I mean, like, I'm like sitting here like, yeah, man, I'm going to heal the entire world. You know what I'm saying? Like, not just me, but like, I'm going to be a part of this organism that's going to heal.
Yeah.
And
manifesting it through our passwords.
100%.
Yeah.
100%, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. No.
Can't say what our passwords are,
No.
obviously.
No, but yeah, 100%. The passwords were so eerily similar.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was just like, it was like that wink from the universe where, it's like, oh, they're going to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that really goes to the testament of like, you have to be crazy, like, or not crazy,
delusional,
but like what people would think of as delusional.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, like this person's out of their mind because their vision is so grandiose. Like it's so big that like nobody could really accomplish that. You have to be a realist.
Yeah.
And the fact is that this is what our conversation was on, is that there's no limit to what we can accomplish.
There's no, we put the limits on it.
100%.
And I think so much of it's just constantly, reflecting, right? Because that's such an important piece. Because if we're just going and we're going, then we allow ourselves to focus on the micro, right? Versus focusing on the macro. When you can pull back and focus on the macro and say like, what is it that I really want to achieve? Right, like I shared with you, right? Like I want to buy the Columbus Blue Jackets.
You are.
Like I am going to do that,
100%.
right? I even have a girl that, my assistant, I reached out to her. I'm like, hey, because I had said something to her about I did this speaking coach I go to, right? And they do like a monthly call or quarterly call to reach out to you and talk to you. And so, I hadn't talked to this guy in probably 6 months. I had a call with him the week before I came here. And, I started sharing with him some of the stuff we're doing with the foster kids and like all of this stuff. And he's like, what are the big, dreams and vision you have? And I'm, kind of voicing some of these things. He's like, all right, well, you need to, you need to find a way to like have that in front of you all the time. All right. So him and I got off that phone call and I reached out to my assistant, like, hey, order me a Blue Jackets jersey to put up on my wall because I want to have it in my office. And they're like, oh, what, you want me to put your number on there? Like, my favorite number is 19, right? And I was like, yeah, put 19 on there. And so then I come down, have our conversation, and I called her yesterday. I'm like, hey, put 38 on there. I was like, because Tuesday night when I went and I was out with a buddy, Utah Hockey Club just opened up a branch. The guy that bought the company bought the team, 46-year-old CEO. And I'm like, that's all I needed was an age. Like, I just needed to see like, when is it happening, right? Because it's so, brand new to me. But it's like there's this alignment of different visions where I had this vision and I wanted to, saw myself speaking, it nationwide, which is the Blue Jackets arena, right? I saw myself speaking there. And then one day I just woke up with this idea of like, no, I want to buy the team one day. Right. And so it's like, you got to keep leaning into these little visions that you have. Right. Ed Milet talks about it. He's like, when you dream, like that dream is your purpose. But so often we ignore the dream because it's so big and it's so scary. It's outlandish that it's like, I'm not going to share that or talk about it. I'm just going to like put it aside and like decide that I'm going to be miserable because I'm not going to go after the thing that I want more than anything.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was just like all of these things. But I told her, I said, hey, that gives me 14 years. And I think so many people you don't hear people talking about setting a 14-year goal. Right. We look at what's 1 year, what's 3 years. No, like set 14, set 20. Like my life started changing when I started looking at my life and say, what's my 25-year goal? And then that 25-year goal, what is the focus? Where do I want to be? Right. What's the floor? What's the bare minimum that I'm going to accept to be able to take that? Right. And then refocusing on that same goal. Right. And so for me, it's like you have to like think so big because if you're not exposed to Rolexes and Lamborghinis and, and money and wealth and, all of these things, then you don't know. Right. It's like, but once you get exposed, now all of a sudden, now it can be real. Right. I always say like one of the things to meeting people that are at a higher level than me is like it humanizes them. Where I'm like, man, they're not any different than me. Like they're $100 million guy and the only difference is time. And so we get discouraged because we don't achieve something in 1 year and 3 years. It's like start setting your goals 20 years out, 25 years out, because if you can really look that far out, you can't even imagine how much can happen in 25 years. And it makes the day-to-day much easier because it's like, not a big deal. I'm buying $1 billion team in 14 years. I don't care what this is here. I don't have to worry about wanting to achieve this little micro thing because the big thing is going to bring all the micro things.
Yep. No, 100%. Listen, when I was I was trying to get sober years ago, right? And one of the guys at AA, because you get a sponsor when you go to AA, and I was training at the gym with my sponsor at the time. And we're like hitting the weights and a Rick Ross video comes on, right? And they're on boats and they've got the necklaces and like all of this kind of stuff, like living this lavish life. They got the cars, everything's like that. And my sponsor looks at me and he goes, we're never going to have that kind of life. And I said, well, maybe you're not going to have that kind of life.
Yeah.
I said, but I didn't just get sober to get sober, man. Like I'm definitely going to have that kind of life. And the truth is that like, I actually ended up firing the guy as my sponsor. And it's because it's like, I think that one thing that it is hard for people, but like it's a necessary thing is if people are trying to impose their limited visions on you, you can't really kind of be around that kind of energy. So like when people have tried to impose limited beliefs on you, how did you handle that, man?
Man, I think I'm really good. I'm like an out of sight, out of mind guy, right? I can put blockers up. I can ignore it. My whole life I've fought an uphill battle, right? My whole life when I was 14 years old, I got diagnosed with human growth hormone deficiency, right? And so at 16, I had the bone structure of a 12-year-old. And I'm playing, the highest level of hockey with guys that are men at this point, right? And I'm like a child and, just getting beaten and destroyed and cut from every team and never making a team. And it's like, but I would still show up to the next tryout, get cut again, show up to the next tryout, get cut again, go down to the roller rink, have my dad pull the car up and just shoot pucks all night until they'd kick us out, right? And it's like, so for me, it's like I came from a small town. Nobody ever believed that I could achieve the things that I've even achieved now. Right. Even when I talk to friends from back home, it's like I don't even talk about it because I know that it's just going to create more distance between me and them. And at this point in my life, I'm like, I don't need to prove to you what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to love you for you. Even if you think that I can't achieve the things that are on my heart, it's not going to change the way I feel about you. Right. And so I just try to look at it like that, where it's that empathy of saying, man, if I was you, I'd probably be thinking the same way.
Yeah, no, listen, I like, I love everyone. I might not like the way that everybody act, but I love everybody. But sometimes now with like people trying to do that to me, I've had to love people from a distance.
You have to, right? And it's not saying like cut them out completely, never talk to them again. It's like you just have to learn how to, when you there's a thing called NLP. I'll tell you about, like neuro-linguistic programming, right? And they say that NLP is the art of being able to change someone else by being able to change yourself. Right. And so it's being able to recognize your patterns and the way that you think and the map that you've, lived on for so long. And so, but to, those people that don't see it the way that you do or haven't been able to like shift their maps yet, you can still like by changing yourself and bring yourself to that level and being able to connect them with, without creating the distance of like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm achieving, of just like, where are you at? What do you want? Like, that is one thing that I really took away from all of this is like, my goal is to be much more intentional with like helping people find their purpose by just having conversation with them and just seeing it's like, maybe I can guide them in a direction. I don't need to change the way they think, but maybe I can point them in a direction to make them say, oh man, because the hardest part once we get so far down the road is that we got to look back and say, I've been wrong for 25 years. Like the thing that I thought was actually not the thing because I've been running off the playbook that my parents gave me and their parents gave them. And so now we just, we never actually establish our own belief systems. It's like I always say, it's like a taught system.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're just doing what we've been taught unless you start to expand into these other levels of consciousness to realize like, wait a second, there's a whole nother world out there. And if it's like once you expand into that, now you're like, this actually seems more simple.
Yeah.
Because that's much more complex.
We see it a lot here. Like people are so foundationally one way when they come in before their treatments. And then through the set of treatments, they start to become a different person. So much so that their friends are like, what did you do? How did you change? They're lighter. Their energy is different. Everything about them has just changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then it makes that person be like, oh, I kind of want that. I want to do what you're doing. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, that's even what I kind of shared with him too, right? Because that's like same thing. It's like, I feel like I can take what I learned from this and go back and integrate that to my people and to the company without them even experiencing the same thing. I'm like, just as a leader, exposing myself and experiencing this, like now I can take that and take the shift in the mindset and the shift in my vibration. Like one of my girls said the same thing the other day. She's like, Mike, I left her a voice memo and she's like, you just sound different. Like you sound more elevated. You sound more energetic. She's like, so like but just by me changing my vibration, I'm going to be able to go back and impact a culture of people to maybe one day they'll want to expose themselves to this. Maybe when they're ready for that. And now I've been able to, go in and kind of, and I think that's what, a great entrepreneur does is like, you go in and take on the storm first, right? It's like like I said, I was coming here. I'm like, I'm like a buffalo, man. I'm just running into the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
But like,
literally.
Right. And I mean, like, and that's what you have to do as a great entrepreneur because there's so many people out there that want to start companies, but they want to be at the top. Yeah. And it's like, I always use the analogy of like the trash can assignment. I'm like, I will forever take the trash out. Right. And I don't do it to say like, oh, look, guys, leave the trash bag open. Like someone didn't take it out again. Like, let me clap the bag around loud so everyone sees it. It's like, no, I never want to walk past something. Like with our company, our vision is, to improve houses or improve homes, but then also improve the lives of every person we touch and always leaving things better than we have found it.
Yeah. And like if you don't do it, what's going to motivate that person to do it?
You have to be the example.
You do.
You got to be, this is like, there it is, man. We have to embody it, what we're trying to put out and we're trying to attract into our lives. And like, that's a great example of like with what you were just talking about is like, I did this to level myself up. So then I can go back and like hold that frequency so everybody else levels up.
100%. Well, and as you evolve as a entrepreneur, it's when you first start, you're like 98% tactic. You're just trying everything, doing this, doing that, having no clue what you're like. You're just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. Like that's what you're doing, right? But then as you grow, if you don't recognize that you can't get to the next level by working harder, right? You have to become more strategy, right? I think at a highest level, when you can be at like a 95% strategy and 5% tactic, now you figured out entrepreneurship, right? But you have to go through these storms. You got to go through and weather these things and try these things and blaze the trail because one, you have to get your people there because if they can't see what's in your mind and they can't see the way you're moving, then they can't follow you. So you got to do that. But then also you got to be able to look back and start to, empower those people to start stepping out and expanding. It's like, I think so often people hear leadership and they're like, you got to be a CEO or a CO. It's like, nah, man, like if somebody comes in here and experiences this and they leave here and they go have a conversation with somebody, that's a leader, right? We all have the opportunity to be the leader in our circle, in our culture, and the people around us. And it's like, so you have to be seeking experiences to be a leader, right? Even staying with my buddy for the couple days I've been here, like there's been moments that I've done things that I saw him kind of like, today we were golfing and some old guy golf cart went off the trail and was sunk. Right. And we're getting ready to tee off. And I look up and he's probably 50 yards up and he's like trying to push the golf cart out. He's stuck. And my buddy's like, about to tee off. And I'm like, should we go help him? And he's like, nah, man, like he's good. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, nah, I'm going to go help him. Right. So I jump in the car and jump in the cart and my buddy gets in and we start going towards him and the guards are coming down, or one of the, guys working the course. And my buddy's like, oh man, there's a guy coming. Let's just go back. And I'm like, I look at that guy. I'm like, I'm going to be able to get this guy out of here better than this guy's going to be able to. Right. So I'm like, nah, it's cool. Jumped off the cart and literally, muscled the thing out of the mud for the guy. And, and as we're going away, my guy's like, yeah, that guy was an idiot, And I'm like, yeah, but, you got to look for an opportunity to do good.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, there's so many chances to, transcend yourself in every single day with just like those opportunities to do good for somebody. Yep. But you don't even recognize them until you come and experience something. Right. And so like just me experiencing that, then going there and helping him was like, now my buddy might go be at the gas station and you never know. He might have that opportunity to step in and say, oh man, Mike helped that one person out. That looked cool. I'm going to do that.
And like the other day, Charles, we were coming here, was right after the hurricane. And I'm like, why are you putting your sneakers on? Just wear your sandals. Like, let's go. And he's like, oh, well, I'm wearing my sneakers because what if I need to stop and somebody needs help? I want to be ready.
You got to be ready, man.
100%.
And that's part of being a good leader is like finding things like this, because this is how you get ready. Because until you see the next level, you don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to expand yourself, have an experience like this to where it's like, okay, this is the way that I can stay more ready. It's more meditation. It's more prayer, right? It's more moments of gratitude, right? It's like those things are how you prepare and get ready. It's way less about putting a roof on.
Yeah.
Right. It's about what are you doing internally to be able to then go help everybody else do that.
Vitamin G, gratitude. Like when you were talking earlier about how, I was at the pool and like, I was literally almost in tears because I was just so grateful. I think that like for me, like gratitude is one of the most important things because you're never going to achieve more until you're grateful for what you have.
100%.
And then circling back to what you were talking about with like, having to go through the storms and stuff like that. There's been a lot of times where like Christina's just like, dude, like, over the last 5 years, we have had our butts kicked so many times, so hard. And it's been like brutal at times. And I'm just like, this is really exciting.
Yeah.
I was like, because the thing is that we're learning these really tough lessons because we're leveling up because of it.
Yep.
And I said, so like the fact that we've been whacked back to back to back to back so many times, like, and had to grow so much. And that's really what it equates to is these uncomfortable situations that we're going through. We're actually growing so we can be those leaders that can lead people because we've taken on the storm.
Yeah.
And
the more you just get through it, like if somebody,
the less they hurt.
Right. You know what I mean? And the more you get through it, yeah, you start to realize like you don't even concentrate on it anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's times now in the business where I'm like, if this would have happened to me 5 years ago, I don't know what I would have done. Right. And now I'm like, it's not even anything. If I'll hear people's problems. Right. And then, I don't even share mine because I'm like, yeah, that's a problem. But I got 35 mouths to feed. And, and there's levels above that even. Right. Every one of us has our own problems. But the more you get through them, you stop looking at the micro problems because it's like it's a small blimp in the, journey to getting to where I want to go.
So being in charge of 35 people and running that show, man, your company, what's your best advice to people out there that are actually in charge of a bunch of people like that and giving direction and being a leader? Like, what would your best advice be?
You got to focus on the big three, right? It's culture, it's people, and it's numbers. They don't teach you how to balance a checkbook. They don't teach you how, most businesses don't fail because they can't sell. Everybody can sell something. We're selling every day, right? And so you've got to be able to learn to manage money and know what money looks like and or find somebody that does. I was never a good money manager. I found a stud that knew how to money manage, and she's a bulldog. And it's like, she tells me like, stop doing this, stop doing that. And it's like, so that, you find the ways to set your boundaries, right? And then, culture is a huge part, and culture is built off of the entrepreneur, right? So often people want to get to the highest level, and it's like, but the reason that people are at your company is for you. And I think we take that for granted a lot of times, right? We don't realize the gift that we have to be able to have people looking up to us, well, listening to us, being willing to, navigate these waters with you and having your back in those, moments of turmoil and animosity, right? They trust you. And so much of that comes down to being consistent, right? It's like I always say, people will find comfortability in your consistency. So as a leader, you have to be able to expand yourself so that you can take on these storms without allowing yourself to go from a 3 to an 8 to and ride this roller coaster wave, because your energy is what everybody's feeding off of, right? And so that's what, culture, it's like you've got to constantly say, like, what's the culture pulse? Got to get the right people in the right seats, the wrong people off the bus, right? And then the other one is people. You've got to be able to find top tier elite talent. And the way that you find that is by becoming that. Right? Like, I got dogs around me that work for me. I mean, these guys are hustling while I'm gone, producing, selling. I mean, these guys are making at 21 years old more money than I was making ever. You know what I mean? And so it's like, but I find those guys because I'm willing to step out and go find them and see past the surface, right? Most of our guys weren't sales guys. They didn't come from roofing. They were good old boys that ran heavy equipment, worked in the coal mines, did the things that I did. But because of my story and what I was able to achieve and accomplish, they saw themselves in that story, right? And that's why what we were talking about, like, every great business has a face. Mm-hmm. And that face is the company's story. And like, that's the difference. That's a separator between why they go there and they come here, because of you, because you lived the thing that you're selling, right? Like, we're installing roofs, but I'm selling a vision. I'm selling community. We're putting roofs on foster families. We're trying to do all these things. And it's like, that's because those things is what got me here. And when you become that, you become the thing that you are wanting to achieve, then there's people around you see that and they're like, man, I want to be like that. I want to be like this guy. I want to be like, how do you show up when all this stress, all these things, how do you keep, being happy, putting a smile on? And that's, for me, was one of my biggest things to know, like, I needed to come down here because I wasn't doing that. Yeah. I saw myself back in my office, keeping myself busy, couldn't get focused, all over the place. Here, I'm there. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm feeling depressed. Like, the weight was coming down on me, and I was just burning the candle at both ends, not sleeping, going. And it's like, for me, when I get in this scarcity mindset, I always try to overcompensate with more work ethic. I try to work harder, more hours, more. And it's like, and you have to be able to stop in those moments and pull yourself back, right? Like I said, again, coming here and being able to disconnect from that. And it's like, I'm focused on the wrong things. As a CEO, I got to be focused on building the people. I got to be focused on walking in and motivating them and inspiring them and, going out and trying these things and doing these things and talking about it and leading them. It's like, that's what a great leader does. A great leader doesn't do the job for you. A great leader helps you be better at the job you're doing for them.
Man.
That was good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think you helped me grow.
Yeah, I know. I love it, man. I love it. I actually just learned a lot myself, brother.
Thank you.
Listen, man, like, I know that you do a lot of this kind of coaching for entrepreneurs and help build people up in that way. If people are trying to get a hold of you or are interested in working with you in that capacity, how would they find you? Yeah, so Instagram's probably gonna be my best way. The team runs all of that, so I don't have to, lose the messages and whatnot. And so you can find me on Instagram at Michael McGovern, our CEO. I have a group called the Reckless Group, and that's where I just, we have service-based business owners. We also, inside of that, I got my sales guys will run calls for companies, sales guys. I run a weekly call with the leaders of the organization. And man, it's, roofing is a part of it, service-based is a part of it, but it's more this stuff. It's more the mindset, right? Because, every person that I've ever worked with as an entrepreneur, they don't need to know more about the business. They need to know more about themselves. Right. That's how you grow people. Right. And so I try to think that that's where we're a little bit different, where it's not like sign up for roofing coaching. It's like, no, I mean, your business will get better. I promise you that. But like, you're going to become a better man from it. I love that.
Why do you call yourself the Reckless CEO?
Yeah, I'm actually feeling like I'm kind of like adapting. Yeah, I'm kind of like adapting out of that now. It's funny, right? So it's like, so when I got with my first mentor and I kind of got into the coaching and things like that, it's like, if you listen to Kobe Bryant, he talks about like the Mamba mentality. right? He's like, you have to, and if you read any of Tim Grover's books, right? And have you read any of those?
No.
So there's one called Relentless and then Winning, right? And Tim Grover was like the coach of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, like all these greats. And you know, in his book, it's like he talks about how Kobe had this Mamba mentality and would like switch it on and off, right? He's like, I can't be the guy that's going to go out and put 30 points up against the team and then go be that same individual with my family. So you've got to start to like characterize yourself. You've got to be able to have different identities that you can become at a blink of an eye. And so for me, like this whole reckless CEO thing was like, it's not so much like reckless and abandon as much as it's like a reckless pursuit to achieve whatever you want to achieve. And so I kind of just came up with the name Reckless CEO, right? And so then I had and then I had like the Reckless CEO podcast and the Reckless group and kind of expanded on that. But you know, a couple months ago, I even changed my Instagram name back to, you know, Michael McGovern. And I feel like I'm kind of like shedding out of that now, right? Because now I look back and say like that Reckless CEO version of me is what got me to here. But being reckless, right? This next step, I'm not that anymore.
Now you're like the calculated
100%, right? It is, right? And so,
CEO.
right, and that's what happens. So you've got to be able to have these identities, and like I think for so many people, we hold on to the identities. Like, you know, I got to the point where I'm like, I'm not really feeling this anymore, right? Even the podcast and doing the things, and it's like I don't know that it's like suiting me anymore. But then it's inside. I'm like, wow, man, is that me like feeling people are thinking about me, or what am I like? You go through all these things, right? But I know for me that it's the next level for me is shedding that 80%. That 80% was like the Reckless CEO. So now I'm getting into the point where I'm going out and asking for, you know, millions of dollars to raise a fund to go buy more roofing companies. And I'm leading boardrooms. And, you know, I'm not that guy anymore. Right now I'm the next version of me. And so that's kind of how I came up with the Reckless CEO. It was more of an identity that I needed at the time.
I love that, man.
You're welcome.
You got to be reckless and chasing after your dreams at first when you're trying to figure everything out. And then it's like you evolve more into this strategic, like directional kind
Slow it down.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because you're going fast all the time. And the next level isn't speed. The next level is methodical. The next level is being able to pull back and look and say, like, what's the move that's 3 moves ahead? Not the move that's tomorrow, the move that no one else sees yet.
Heck yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate you guys.
This was amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Honestly, one of my favorite episodes that we've done.
Thanks everyone for joining us today. Nobody's told you that they love you lately.
We do.
Have a blessed day, everyone.